It's kind of funny when you think about it. Some of the most important things we measure in fields like psychology or HR, things like competence or personality, we can't actually see them. So let's dig into that because it's a really fascinating challenge.
That's the big question, right? How do we put a number on something that doesn't have a physical form? When we talk about these critical qualities in people, we're trying to get a handle on the invisible. And we use these words constantly. We're always talking about leadership potential or measuring employee engagement or looking for resilience. But you can't point to resilience in a room. You can't put competence on a scale. So how in the world do we turn these abstract ideas into something we can actually measure? Well, the key to doing that, to making the invisible visible, comes from a really powerful idea called latent variables.
So here's the deal. A latent variable is basically that hidden trait we're interested in, like intelligence or empathy. You can't stick a thermometer in someone's ear and get an empathy reading, right? So instead, we have to be detectives. We infer it by looking at things we can see. How someone answers a question on a survey, for example. Those observable behaviors are our clues to the hidden trait. To make this concept super clear, let's use a simple but really effective analogy. We'll call it the road analogy. Okay, I want you to picture this. You're standing on a street corner, and there's a sharp, blind curve just up the road. You know a car might be coming, but you can't see it yet. That car is real, it exists, but from your perspective, it's invisible. Now, here's the cool part. Even though you can't see the car itself, you can get a pretty good idea of what it's doing just by watching the people who are waiting to cross the street. Are they just strolling across, no problem? Or are they hesitating, kind of peeking around the corner? Their behavior gives you clues. You start thinking, a car must be getting close. And this is where it all clicks. The behavior of the people on the street, that's the visible stuff, just like someone's answers on a test. And that hidden car, that's our latent variable. It's the psychological trait, like anxiety or competence, that's causing the behavior we can see. We're using the visible to get a read on the invisible. But we can take this analogy even deeper, because not all clues are the same, right? In our model, you can think of each test question as a different person standing on that road, each with a slightly different view. Think of it like this. Some test questions are easy. They're like a super cautious person who starts getting nervous even when the car is still way down the road. Then you have difficult questions. They're like the daredevil who won't even flinch until the car is right on top of them. And the best questions? They're highly sensitive. They can tell you almost exactly how far away that car is. They give you the most precise information. Now, you might hear some technical stuff about how these models use a normal distribution or a standard scale. Don't get hung up on that. It doesn't mean we think all people fit perfectly onto a bell curve. It's much simpler. It's just a convention, like we all agree to use the metric system. It gives us a common ruler so we can compare things consistently. What matters isn't the number itself, but where people land on that ruler compared to each other. Okay, let's shift gears now because we're about to get to the most critical part of this whole idea. Because when we get this stuff wrong, the consequences are very, very real. This isn't just about stats, it's about fairness. Let's go back to our analogy. What happens if the view of that road isn't the same for everyone? What if some people have a clear view and for others, there's a giant bush in the way? This is where we run into a huge problem in testing, bias. So let's set up a scenario. You have two people. They have the exact same level of the trait we want to measure. In our analogy, the car is at the exact same distance from both of them. Logically, the reaction should be identical, right? But what if, for one person, that approaching car looks like a giant semi-truck barreling down on them, and for the other person, it just looks like a little motorcycle? Of course they're going to react differently. The first person is going to panic, while the second might not be as concerned. And it's not because their competence is different. It's because the question itself is presenting a completely different challenge to them. And this, right here, is the absolute key. When we see that happen, the problem isn't with the people, it's with the question. It's a biased, unfair question. And when we use unfair questions, we end up making unfair decisions about who gets hired, who gets promoted, and who gets the help they need. So you see, understanding all of this, the hidden car, the different viewpoints, it's not just an academic exercise. It's about building trust. It's about making sure our entire process of evaluating people is built on a solid foundation.
So why does this matter so much? It boils down to three really simple, really important things. We do this to make sure we're measuring the right thing, to make sure we're measuring it the right way, and most importantly, to make sure we are measuring it fairly for every single person. And look, if you work in any field where you assess people, whether it's HR or mental health, this isn't just nice to know information. This is a core part of your professional and ethical responsibility. You have to know your tools are fair. So I'll leave you with this one question to take back to your own work. Look at the tools you use, the questions you ask, the evaluations you make. Can you say with confidence that your method is truly fair for everyone? It's a vital question, and one we all need to be asking ourselves constantly.